Welcome to the Empowered Podcast with Deanna Merlino, a personal development show where I will be sharing with you just how to transform yourself into the best version of you, both inside and out. From fitness and nutrition to business and positive mindset work, I'll be showing you exactly how to live your best life. I'll be keeping it as real and raw as it gets. So get ready to peel back the layers and really transform yourself under the surface, because nothing is better than finding your purpose and living this life as your true, authentic self. So I have a really fun addition to utilize as a source that I would love for you guys to do at the start of your day, every single day, to just keep you on track, help you with your goals, really get you into a positive mindset every single morning, because what we do in the morning is how we are going to shape our entire day. I have this fancy little sheet that I'm calling Day by Design, and it's an editable PDF that you're going to be able to fill out even as your day goes on if you need to. Some of it is meant to be for you to do as your day goes on. And some of the things that are in there are going to be the mood that you're feeling for the day, tracking your exercise, your water intake, and your meals. You're going to write what you're grateful for, your schedule, your goals, your get to-do list, because I don't like to say to-do list or have to do, a money tracker, and just keeping everything in one place for what you need to do today, tomorrow, and for all the days so that you can make sure that you stay on track and have the best day that you can. So in order for you guys to get this, I'm going to have you go to my website, which is www.deannamerlinofit.com. And you're going to get asked to sign up for a newsletter that you will then get this in exchange for free. So super easy. You don't have to do anything but sign up. And after that, you'll get a quick little welcome letter. And then once a month, I will send out a newsletter that is going to keep you guys up to date with me, so you can just get to see the ins and outs of what's going on in the life of Deanna Merlino and the Empowered Podcast. Can't wait for you guys to utilize this, and just can't wait to see you guys sharing it on social media as well, hitting your goals, helping others do it as well. Please take advantage of this. It will definitely be fun for everyone involved. Good morning, my Empowered fam. I am so excited to be here with you guys today, and I have a really lovely guest. You guys are going to absolutely love just all of the amazing things that she brings for us today. So get ready to buckle in and just take in all the goodies. So let me just go ahead and get her introduced. We are with Marta Spirk today, and Marta is a wife, a triplet mom, a TEDx speaker, author, empowerment coach, and marketing strategist. She helps women entrepreneurs learn to boost their confidence and grow their business by focusing on their most valuable resource, themselves. She does that with her podcast, The Empowered Woman, which I love that we have similar names. Her podcast has over 100,000 downloads. And she also has her book, The Empowered Woman, The Ultimate Roadmap to Business Success, and the Empowered Woman School membership and workshops. Marta, I am so excited to have you here today.
I am so excited too.
Thank you for being on. So we're going to just have all the goodness today. And I would love to just get started with your background and just like a little bit about yourself, because you have a really awesome, inspiring story.
Thank you so much. Well, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here too. The Empowered Ladies, Empowered Fam.
Yes.
I love that. So cool. Well, I am Marta Spirk. I am originally from Brazil, born and raised. At the age of 14, I started tutoring English. I've always been super passionate about the language and the culture. And that sent me off on this journey of getting a bachelor's and master's in linguistics. I got involved in translating, interpreting. I still work as an interpreter here in Colorado. I'm a certified court interpreter. But along the way, I met my husband in a church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in a church conference. My mom is a pastor, so I was always very involved in church. We got married in 2010. I moved to Denver, Colorado, where he was living at the time. And after 5 years, we got pregnant with triplets. Ooh. And that is what really set me on this journey of personal growth and personal empowerment that I'm on right now. Many twists and turns, many ups and downs, like most people. And got me to beginning and growing a business that is focused on empowering women entrepreneurs. to stand up, use their voice and their gifts to impact the world, and to, change the world and also create a life that they're proud of living and set an example for their children. So this is what I've been up to.
I love that. That's super amazing. Thank you for all the things. You are definitely making an impact. That's for sure. I'll say that. Speaking of all the many titles that you have and all the many plates that you're juggling, I would love for us to talk a little bit deeper about how you manage that work-life balance with entrepreneurship, being a mother, being a wife, all the things.
Yeah, so that has definitely been very challenging in many ways. Obviously, with having triplets, it is a lot. It's very intense and it is a lot. But one of the things that I feel like set me up for success in becoming an entrepreneur when my babies were 9 months old is actually when I decided I'm starting something. I'm starting my business.
Okay.
And many people thought I was crazy. But what helped me with that was the fact that we had a very structured routine to begin with. And that is something that I see with many women is a challenge, especially for women that have singletons, which is a term that I came to know because I did not have a singleton, is that in order for me to be able to take care of them, I had to have a structure. I had to have, nap times, eating times, and even to this day, we have to start our routines at a certain time. Otherwise, it's going to take even longer and longer. The luxuries that having a kid, one kid or kids of different ages, we've never had. So that set me on this path of I can count on the infamous nap time, but I really could because they were trained to sleep at that time and with bedtime and with everything else. So that is something that I always encourage women, especially if they have littles, is to seek the help of somebody that can help you with structure, especially for kids' sleep, because they need the sleep. And oftentimes as moms, we feel guilty that we're imposing something on them, but it's actually needed for their development. And that's something that I'm very grateful that we started early on. And the other part of this has been being very determined and clear with my husband about what I was doing. In the beginning, it was hard because I wasn't very confident in just starting out. And I wasn't treating it so much like a business. And that's very normal. Now looking back, you treat it kind of like a hobby because that's what it kind of is when you begin. And one of the reasons why I continued seeking my interpreter career was in many ways to give me that buffer to then focus time on my business while I wasn't bringing in a decent income. So I had something to fall back on. And that is something that I also encourage is if that is what it takes, because oftentimes we may see that as failure, right? I need to, burn the boats and go all in my business, but only you know what your financial situation is and also your relationship with your family and your spouse. And it is your unique journey. So I think a lot of this balancing came with letting go of shame and really perceived requirements for what this journey should look like when I look at other people. Like, oh, they've gone full time and their husband is cheerleading them in the front row. So this is what I need to create for myself. But that may not be your case. So what are you going to create for yourself in order for that to happen? So for me, the situation was my husband didn't really see the vision like I did. And now I understand that I should have never blamed him because he's not inside my head and he doesn't have the obligation to see the same vision that I do. And so being very clear with him that this is what I want to pursue, but I will also do something else if that helps you and us in terms of our financial situation. But that has always been something very important because every time that I have been clear and honest, the path has been a lot smoother than when I'm trying to do things inside my head and expecting him to support me, if that makes sense. Like that communication is extremely important. And I think at times we're not very honest or clear because we're afraid, but that doesn't help the situation either. So those were two things that were helpful and still are helpful, even as my kids are growing and they go to school and I have more time, is also being honest with how much time I am spending versus how much time it really takes. Because we can get excited about things and get carried away. And what I've noticed is at times being resentful of my kids and my family because I have so many projects and so many aspirations and things that I want to do. So keeping myself in check, I think that's really the growth journey of entrepreneurship. And I'm grateful that my husband helps me keep myself in check too. But at the end of the day, only you can do that for yourself. Like people can help. I mean, you hire coaches for that too. Like, what are you doing with your time? But at the end of the day, nobody can be honest with you for you, right? So asking yourself those hard questions and paying attention to where the resistance is, because many times we equal more work, more time to more success and recognition. And that rarely is the case. So yeah.
Wow.
Very long answer.
That was so spot on though. And it's funny because like you would say one thing, I'm like, oh, I'm going to hit on that. Oh, I'm going to hit on that. But it was just like one good thing after another. So it's like impossible for me to do that. But that was such perfect advice. And even for me, like I almost just felt like I was paying you as a client for a second. Like you were putting me in my place without putting me in my place, because that's where, and I think we all go through that stage. We all go through that growth that you just spoke about. And I love, you just did something big for me that I didn't even realize that I needed. Was I feel like I still hold on to my personal training because I'm an elite personal trainer. I'm a nutritionist, and I'm still passionate about that. I still love that. Yeah. But that's not my big grand scheme idea. You know, that's not the big it for me, but I always hold on to it. One, I love my clients, but it is that source of income that's consistent no matter what for a household. And sometimes I get in this place of, I almost feel guilty for not burning the boat per se, when I've heard that so many times. And I've told myself there's nothing wrong with if I didn't love doing it, that'd be different. If I was doing it for a different reason, I think that would be different. But you just saying that was like an unknown confirmation in a way that I needed, that it's okay that I'm building my business while still doing the things that is that consistent known income. So thank you for that. And I know that's going to sit with someone else as well. So that was the perfect question to be asked. Okay. So I know that we actually met initially or connected through Catherine Zenkina's, one of her courses, the Manifestation Babe, which I talk about her all the time. And I would love to just chat about this for a moment, because you did mention as well that you come from a very religious background. And I feel like obviously Catherine's more of like a spiritual type background. And I'm actually I just got done talking about this in my last podcast, how I am both spiritual and religious. And I feel as well that there's no need to put yourself into a box or anyone into a box. What feels right is what is right for you. But I would just love to hear kind of your journey of that and your perspective on coming from that background and being in a spiritual evolution for yourself.
So it's been, really illuminating, I feel, because I had followed her content for so long. And I was, at the same time that I was attracted to it, I was also kind of afraid, I think, or resistant to it because of my background. And through the last, 3-4 years, which is pretty much the amount of time that I've had my business or have taken my business seriously, I've allowed myself, and again, it all goes back to that shame and the guilt, right? I've allowed myself to explore it from a curiosity standpoint of, I'm not, just because I'm looking into this, it doesn't mean that I'm committing to this, or it doesn't mean that I'm negating the other things that I've learned. And I think in many ways we are taught to, or in many ways we tell ourselves that if you do something else, and back to even like the burning the boats thing, right? Then that means you jumped ship, like you negate everything else from the past. And I think as an adult now, because I grew up in that, I've never really had a chance to question it. In fact, it was encouraged that I not question it. And then having my family, being my own person, if I want to go and eat McDonald's for lunch, my mom's not going to tell me that I can't. Right. Just like little things that I grew up with, that it gets so ingrained in your mind that you can't do. And then it's like, well, no one's here to tell me that, so I can actually go and do. I felt this freedom to start wanting to listen to what these people have to say with an open mind. And remind myself that it's not just because I'm listening that I am agreeing or that I have to agree with it. And with that, I actually came to realize that a lot of what Catherine says, or even these, spiritual mentors say, are very much in alignment with what I learned. And by knowing the different sides, I am actually more equipped to make my own decisions, right? Because when somebody tells you this is the way, but you're not aware of what other ways are you really choosing, right? So I feel like, and especially this year, this kind of started late last year for me, I've been intentionally choosing my relationship with God. Whereas before I felt like I was, but in many ways, that's all there was. So it's so much more empowering now for me to say, I actually want to do this, as opposed to this is what my whole family does, so I guess I will do it. This is what I have been feeling more, is that I've been seeing things with different eyes, and really through more mature eyes, because I am making an intentional choice and picking things, right? Because there's lots of trauma that I feel like has happened in that space, where by being resentful to a person, I ended up feeling resentful to God. And now I'm able to separate that and be like, it's not the same. And people are flawed. And I allowed that bad experience to ruin something else that is so positive and that is so helpful to me in my life. But it took me years. I was actually talking to somebody the other day, and I was like, it took me really the time span that I've been married. I'm going to be married for 12 years later this month.
Congrats.
Actually. Thank you. And for this entire time, and just for context, one of the reasons why I started looking at things that are this different perspective was because the church was kind of against my marriage. Even though I met my husband in church.
Wow.
People were very, like, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but the church that we were in was very specific about make sure you marry the right person, make sure you marry the right person. So it was almost like you couldn't do right. You know what I mean? Like whoever you picked, that was going to be a problem. And I think I've lived under that weight of guilt for the last decade. Because it felt like I had done something wrong, like I had picked the wrong thing. And there was nothing in the relationship through the years that really proved that, because we're still together, you know. If anything, it proved the opposite. And it just took me that amount of time to trust myself and trust that I am empowered to make my own decisions and to make things work, and believe that God is blessing me and He's with me. So that's been my path.
I loved how you worded all that. And I'm always saying too, like, I will never tell somebody what to do or what to choose or what direction, but I always encourage learning and being open and kind of just like navigating your way through these things and finding what feels right to you, because at the end of the day, only you can choose, and there's nothing wrong with the thought patterns and the beliefs that you end up following. And it's such a struggle, because when we, just like you and the same with me, when you grow up, you're taught these things. And I'm sure you've heard it before. What you're taught until about the age of 7, 8 or so it's a very firm belief in your brain. Like that is like, if someone told you purple is blue, you're going to believe purple is blue. Yeah. So it's kind of like, as an adult, you get to really question, like, is purple blue? Like, you're allowed to do that now. And it just opens your eyes to such a different perspective, and how things, you know, really may actually be not what you were told, and just you have to believe it. So I love that. Exactly. Thank you for sharing that from that perspective. That was awesome. Okay, so I kind of would love to talk about just more of the stuff that you're doing. One thing, I have a question. So I was going through your media page, and I would love to hear how you got, like, I know you do public speaking. How did you get into doing so many news interviews? I was very blown away by that.
Thank you. I actually have another one scheduled for this week to talk about Mother's Day. So that'll be fun. Well, it all started because I invested in this media mentorship program that really opened up so many doors for me. They didn't do anything for me. They taught me how to get in touch with different channels, different, media outlets. And ultimately what happened was building relationships. That's really what it is. And I know for a fact I'm a very impatient person, and I don't want, when people tell me just, get involved and build relationships, I'm like, I don't have that kind of time. Just connect me with the right person. Tell them I'm amazing, and
let's make this happen. Let's go.
Let's make this happen, But the older I get, the more I see that everything compounds, and people are going to, know who you are, and they're going to remember your name, and doors are going to be open for you. In the beginning, it's more like, there's a wall, there is no doors. Let's just bust this wall and make something happen. Like, this is a lot of what I did, and I still do with other things that I haven't accomplished yet. But through time, people will literally usher you into things, but it takes building those relationships. Anyways, so the basics of somebody wants to get into the news, what became really clear to me is that, especially with morning news, which are lighter topics, they need material, and they need people to come in and do like 3-minute segments. What you need to be aware of is you're not there to promote yourself. If you want to promote your business, that is paid. You have to pay them. There are specific shows that will allow for that. But if you're wanting to do free, you have to bring in value. And just think about Walmart. What is Walmart promoting right now? It's Mother's Day. And then it'll be, 4th of July. And then it'll be whatever. So what is relevant right now? Create a pitch idea that is relevant for the news in a way that talks about your expertise, but is relevant for the time. It's timely. And that is the plug that you get. Your name is going to be on there, right? You can oftentimes say, contact so-and-so or find my website. And a lot of it really is not for the people that are going to be watching it. Obviously, some of them may contact you, but a lot of it is in what you do with those segments, with that exposure, is how are you sharing it, and how are you making this a priority in your own marketing to say, I was featured in this. It's so much more powerful than just relying on whoever watched that segment right then and there that may not take action right away. So what I did really was I went to the websites of the networks. I found the anchors. Oftentimes they say to message the producers, but if you connect with the anchors, especially nowadays, you can connect with anchors on social media, get to know what they do for fun. If you can tie in your pitch and your story with that person's specific tastes, like if they're avid, runner, or if they have kids, that's usually easy for moms is to say, I am also a mom. That's really what I did. I said, I'm also a mom. I know you're passionate about mom topics. And I connected with this news anchor who's still such a good friend of mine, even though she left the station.
How awesome.
And and that's that. And then every other month or so, I would send an email, and usually I get booked, and it's good for them. That's what you need to think, is the whole mentality that most of us have heard. What's in it for them, right? Because it's not about you promoting yourself, but you can get a little bit of a plug.
You'll get value out of it by providing them content. Exactly. Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. So some tips.
How cool. That's really awesome. I feel like I don't see a lot of that, if I'm being honest, but it makes so much sense. And it kind of just gives you that credibility when you're able to say, I was seen here. I was seen here.
Yes.
Like, honestly, seeing your media page was like a wheel turn that I have not hit at this point for myself, in the sense of like growing that package and putting it all together. And that's so good to know as a business owner, and being able to share these things with other people is so valuable. Right. Okay, so shifting gears, as I know that you, like I said, you are a public speaker and you're constantly doing events. You are a TEDx speaker, super impressive. Let's talk about how you are now a best-selling author, how you got there, and your book right now.
Well, so I did. Yeah, I published my book. It's going to be, 4 months already? Woo-hoo! It's going to be 4 months. It was in January 5th. It's been quite the journey. Lots of people ask me, how long did it take you? And my answer is, it could have taken me a lot less time. It doesn't have to take very long. A lot of it really is mindset, because it's a big, big step out into the world. I like to say it's kind of like a marriage to your message. It's not just, I'm posting on social media and I can take down that post at any time, or I can pull off my website off the air and it's going to be fine. Obviously, you can decide to take your book off Amazon and do all the things, but it's a bigger commitment that you get. And that's where a lot of the resistance I have felt. And with people now, that ask me, what was the process? Or I'm thinking about this, but I don't know, is we want our message to be final, to put it out there. And your message is never going to be final. Right. We want it to be the Bible or this canon. And that's the reason why thought leaders, if they're still alive, they publish more than one books. Because it is kind of like getting tattoos, although I only have one. But I can see why people get into it, because it's like, you have no new ideas. Mm-hmm. This will represent this, so I'll get this other thing. So I started with this because, like, when you start your business and you get into the space, especially of coaching, you see many people publishing books, you see many people doing TEDx's, and it's like, these are the milestones, right, for your success, is having these things under your belt. And at first I thought it had to be a memoir. And that's where I got stuck, because it's like, I don't feel like I've reached the peak of my life to then publish a book. Mm-hmm. And then, so that means you're never going to publish your book, because you're the peak of your life. What is the peak of your life if you're still alive?
That's not a tangible place.
So I kind of sat on that for a little while. And then I started working with a coach who had published 9 books, who had done a TEDx, who had done pretty much all the things. That's why I decided to work with him, because it's like, you're my future me. Show me the way. And he gave me the best advice. He said, do not write a memoir. Write an introduction to you. This is supposed to be an extended business card for you. Is whatever it is that you're already teaching your clients, teach that with your story. You know, give them context based on your story. And I'm so grateful for that, because from that point on, it really took me a little over a year to then get it out. And the rest of it was really prioritizing it and getting over that fear of, I need to put this out. I'm going to have to tell my husband that I'm writing a book, like all these other things in my mind. Those are really the hurdles. They're not the content, I will tell you. Because the content you already have. If you've been in business for more than a year and you've had consistent clients, you have content, my friend.
Sure.
You know, and ultimately what I did was teach the same framework that I teach in my coaching, outline that, and sprinkle in client stories and my own story. And ultimately, the message of the book is building a business from the inside out. It starts with how you feel about yourself, and the growth of your business is dependent upon your own personal growth and the growth of your confidence in who you are.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
And I feel like that can tie into every good thing in life. Like everything that someone is trying to build, personal development, if it's not the foundation, it's going to be a crumbly foundation. Like you have to work on your own stuff first. And it's a never ending journey of continuously growing and working on yourself. So definitely, guys, check out her book. I'm super excited because I saw that you just recorded the Audible version of it, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Yeah.
When can we expect that?
Well, I am going to submit. I want to submit it this week. Okay. I know it takes around 10 to 14 days until they actually release it, but hopefully less. We'll see. So my goal is to have this thing out this month of May, have it out, and it should be available on Audible. Go check it out on Amazon. I'm excited because this will be kind of like a second launch, because I know lots of people maybe have bought the book and not read it, or have not bought the book because they know they're not going to read it, even though it's such a short read. Mind you, the Audible is less than an hour and a half long. It's an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay, so it's like a good podcast episode.
Exactly.
It's funny. I was just thinking about this in the shower. I am to the point. So I just have a never ending supply of books. And I'm like, I'm going to read this one day. And I do read books consistently, but you can only read so fast. So I was just thinking, like, I think it's time for me to make the shift to start listening to books in the audio version, just because I binge podcasts all day long. Like they're playing around the clock for me. So I'm like, I'm going to take in much more content if I start listening to them. So I'm excited. I will commit to saying that yours will be my first audio listen.
Oh, yay! I love it. I'll hold you to it.
I will commit to saying that. So I will wait until it's available and then I will listen to it.
Awesome.
Cool. Okay. So one more thing that I would like to talk about is, so I recently took your quiz that you have been working on, and I found out that I'm a doer, and our listeners are probably like, what are you talking about? So I would love you to just give some background on that and what you're offering right now.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you so much for taking the quiz. So I've created this quiz called Your Six-Figure Personality. What's your six-figure personality? And really, it's I called it the 6-figure personality because when it comes to the entrepreneurship world, especially online, that's a goal that many people are fixated on. But it's really focused on the growth of your business and you as a person, because the results that you get, doer, feeler, or thinker, they exemplify who you are right now. And my goal is to help people understand that the version of them that makes 6 figures and beyond, the version of them that is successful, whatever success means for them, especially as entrepreneurs, already exists. It's already there. And it's a matter of you acknowledging that inside of you, because many people struggle with stepping out, taking risks. And I think entrepreneurs are the people, the 1% that really decide, I'm going to do crazy things and I won't care what other people think. So we're already kind of, above that fear in many ways.
Yeah.
But then the next thing that holds us back into actually seeing the success that we're searching is failing to know who we are. We focus so much on, let's figure out what my ideal client is, right? Let's figure out what my offer is. And we fail to look at ourselves first. And then everything outside, we work on all these things outside. And it goes back to what we're saying, the personal growth part of thing. Like that's my main message of all. But the quiz is a different way of helping people look inside themselves. And it's a fun thing. I'm very excited about this tool. Because it's a great way to get people in my mailing list. People love quizzes and they want to know who they are, and another reason why I created this was because I'm very passionate about the Enneagram, which is a personality framework. I've been using it for years. It's one of the main tools that I share in my book. It's on chapter 1 and sprinkled throughout the book. But the challenge with the Enneagram that I've noticed throughout the years with my clients is that it's very involved. There are 9 different personality types. If you're not the type of person that loves these kinds of things, you're going to take the test, find out what one of 9 you are, and leave it at that. And that's not what the tool is meant for. The tool is meant for your daily life, for you to be aware of your patterns and to start seeing patterns in other people and then improve your relationships. But some people tend not to see the value in that. And I'm like, how can I trick these people into seeing the value of understanding yourself? So I was like, let's simplify it. Instead of having you study 9 types or 8 other types beside your own, let me give you 3. It's not that much to ask to look into 3 different ones. And it's been amazing to see the response that I've gotten, because people really feel seen, and it's allowing them to then see other people for who they are. And as business owners, this is so important, because whether you realize it or not, as a business owner, you're in the business of not taking things personally. Otherwise, you're going to quit, right? You have to be able to build that thick skin. But on the other side of it, I feel like it's not even the thick skin. It's really softening to forgive yourself and to forgive others by just allowing you to be who you are and allowing people to be who they are and meeting each other halfway. So that's the background on the quiz.
I love it for a couple reasons. First, I will say I am an 8 on the Enneagram, and I know that I definitely was that person who took it and then was like, okay, that was cool. And then I never looked at it again. But like
Yay!
so
Prove my point.
So I am that person. So thank you for making the quiz. But on a second just thing I want to touch on, I think, and I say this, so I'm in network marketing as well. And I remember when I started, it's been almost over 3.5 years now. So I've been doing it quite a while. And I remember when I started, the biggest downfall for me was I took everything personally. And I cringe thinking about it now. So whenever I start new business partners, I literally tell them the best piece of advice I can give you right now from the jump is to not take anything personally, because people don't know what they don't know. And their things, their perspective, their view, their reasons aren't ours. So we're always going to look at things differently, and that's completely okay. So you just saying that just made me think of that. But back to your quiz, the one thing that I love about it is you have a Facebook group that I got added into because I took that quiz. And one thing you really focus on is creating the community of, I'm a doer, but I get to see the viewpoints of the thinker and the feeler as well, because even though you have a distinct like higher personality type, you still need the other two perspectives that will help you balance and have that successful business.
Exactly.
So I was really smart of you too. So if you guys have not taken that quiz, we're going to have all of our information. Definitely go take that. It was super helpful and it was very well put together on your end. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Okay, the last thing that I would love to jump in is I listened to your TEDx speech and I thought it was very well presented. And in it, you were, I'm not going to go too deep into it because I want you to do that, but you kind of did an activity for the listeners. And I would love to wrap up today's podcast by doing that same thing. If you just want to, dig into that and present it to them.
Sure. And thank you so much for watching and for your feedback. It was a crazy thing. I'm still kind of like unpacking all of that because, being a public speaker, I talk all the time. I mean, having a podcast is public speaking and I just love talking clearly, but TEDx is special. It's very different. It's sort of like the book because you can't take it down after it's done. Yeah. So it's not yours anymore once it's out into the world. And I got really, really vulnerable sharing when I learned that I was having triplets, sharing my journey as an immigrant and how all of those things have contributed to the coaching that I do right now. And the exercise that I shared, which is what I have been living and what I've been teaching and I'm constantly revisiting, is thinking about difficult situations in your life and going through 3 steps to empower yourself and to really see these challenges that may seem like defeat, right? Off the bat, maybe you have something in mind. Like for me, I did not expect to have triplets. And then I was met with such a different reality that felt like defeat to me. Many people from the outside would be like, oh, you're so blessed. So many people would love to have kids and you get 3 at the same time. And that is one perspective.
That is one
The other perspective, that is one perspective. The other perspective is this is not what I asked for. I had dreams for myself, for delivery, for breastfeeding. So I share more on that on TEDx, but I feel like that is something we can all relate to in a way. The cards we are dealt at times are not the cards we had been hoping for or that we envisioned for ourselves. So what do you do in those moments? You can, stay in that victim spot, or you can really go through intentional steps to empower yourself instead of waiting for somebody to come and tell you, it's okay, you're going to be okay, everything's going to be fine. Be that person to yourself because you can't control when somebody's going to come and tell you it's okay, you're going to be fine. And even if there was a person that told you that every day, you probably need to hear it several times a day. And there is no such person except for yourself. So there are 3 steps in this exercise. The first one starts with forgiveness. And we kind of already touched on that today when we talked about, the resentment and even taking things personally. Because there was a time, and I shared this in the talk, where one of the doctors that I was kind of interviewing to be my OB said, your body's going to be deformed forever. And that is not what I wanted to hear. I don't think that person's qualified to be in this profession.
That's mind-blowing to me. That's infuriating. Sorry, continue. I just have to say that.
Terrible. But my reaction to that is still my choice, right? I could be, cursing this person, the living days out of this person, but that does not help my situation. That does not improve my situation. So what do you do in those times is look for opportunities for forgiveness in your challenges, forgiveness for yourself. So in my case, forgiving myself for feeling shame, guilt, or even at times feeling like I didn't want that and that I was a terrible mom even before I became a mom because I never asked for triplets, So I had to be honest with myself and forgive myself for those things. So whatever circumstance or challenge that you're facing now, the first person you need to forgive is yourself. Because maybe you may be thinking, I caused this, right? Depending on what it is my fault that we're in this situation. Or maybe somebody told you that it's your fault. And now you're kind of thinking, and that's playing in your head over and over again. Find ways to forgive yourself through this situation, and then find ways to forgive the circumstances that you can control. Because at times, like I said, we are dealt cards that we did not expect. So it is your chance, your choice, and your responsibility to forgive that and to forgive people that may not even deserve to, or in your perspective, deserve to be forgiven. But again, you're not doing this for them. You're doing this for yourself so that you can move on, right? And then moving on to the next step, which is the empowerment step, is reminding yourself of other challenging times whatever it is that you're living right now that seems very difficult, it seems extraordinarily difficult because you're in it. But there were other things in your life that you've gone through that were difficult and you felt the same way. But now when you look back, it's like, it wasn't so bad. And the only reason you think that is because you're not living it anymore. Right? So oftentimes you see a friend going through something that you've been through and you're like, it's really not that bad. Well, because you're not in it.
Exactly.
You got this. Right? So what do you do to, this is like, we know this, our brains are powerful machines and you can elicit any kind of emotion out of yourself right now. You don't have to be in a situation, right? So what is a way to empower yourself is think back to a mountain you've climbed and you were successful in it. We've all climbed so many different mountains, right? So what is that? And for me, and that's what I share in the TED Talk, is when I had triplets, I constantly reminded myself of when I married my husband, even though people didn't want me to marry him. And I left everything that I knew behind for 23 years and moved from Brazil to the United States. That is really, really hard. And at times I even have to remind myself of this because it's been so long. I kind of discredit that. Like, yeah, I mean, I moved. Who cares? But it's like, no, this is huge. Not everyone does that, right? Not everyone goes through that in their lifetime. And I've done it several times because I went back to Brazil and I came back. So we all have these things that we overcame. So think back to those. And that's a way to empower yourself. And the final step is look for the positive ripples, look for the silver linings, because even though this is a hard situation, there are new opportunities that are going to come about because of this situation. And sometimes we're so overwhelmed by the difficulty that we don't even want to look for those silver linings. It's kind of like that tantrumy child. I don't want to look for the positive side. I just want to, wallow in how crap this is. And fine, you have the right to do that, but it is your choice to stay there. And what we're trying to do is to move past it, right? So how do you move past it? Besides step 1 and 2 is, what is something to look forward to with this, right? What are new opportunities, new connections, new lessons that I'm learning about myself and about life because of this situation? And for me, ultimately, my biggest silver lining is my kids. I have 3 little versions of me out there that are being mirrors to me and showing me what life really is all about. And I wouldn't have had that had I not had triplets. So those are the 3 steps.
So be your own superhero. And we have survived 100% of our bad days up to this point.
Yes, we have.
And there is a rainbow on the other side of the storm. So,
oh my gosh, I love that. I'm going to have to write it down because it's a beautiful way or analogy for 3.
Just wrap that right up.
Yes, I loved it.
Well, Marta, that was all incredible. I'm so grateful that we were able to cross paths and we have built this connection that that I look forward to continuing to nurture. And I'm just so grateful that you were on here. Thank you for all of that. Those were just such incredible messages. And I know that they're going to help so many people. So thank you. And unless there's anything else that you would like to add, I think that we will wrap it up for the day and let everyone just let those nuggets sink in.
Yes. No, I love it. We touched on so many things. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you again. I hope you have the best day. I'll make sure that we get everything tagged for you, and we will see you again soon. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. If you want to find out more, you can follow me on Instagram at Empowered with Deanna and my personal page, Fit Deanna Lolita. You can also visit me on my website, which is DeannaMerlinoFit.com. Make sure that whatever platform you guys are listening on, please rate and subscribe. And this means so much to me. It's going to help get me out there to help so many other people. I'm so grateful that you're here with me on this journey of wellness and self-empowerment. I cannot promise that it will always be easy, but I do know that it will always be worth it. Stick with me, and together, let's start living as the version of us that we were meant to be. Because the world is waiting for your gifts, and you deserve to live the life of your wildest dreams and beyond. So friends, let's get empowered.